You know, when a government turns on its own people, the violence it commits is so much more than just physical. It carves out these deep, often unspeakable psychological wounds that can literally suspend a person's life and time. So today, we're going to explore the architecture of this state-sponsored terror, see how it dismantles the psyche, and then look at how healing can actually begin, even when words aren't enough. Let's start with this incredibly harrowing account from the 1980s. Picture a little girl. In a simple, innocent act of remembering her disappeared mother, she just signs her name. And for that, she's met with just brutal punishment. This one moment, it contains the entire universe of the trauma we're about to unpack. That brutal act of silencing, that's really the core of what we're talking about today. The girl is forced to bury a fundamental truth about who she is, and that creates a wound that she can't speak about. Her life, from that moment on, becomes suspended between a reality she knows deep down and a truth she's absolutely forbidden to acknowledge. Now, what we're discussing here is a very specific form of collective trauma: state terrorism. This isn't just random violence, it's a systematic project. The very entity that's supposed to protect you becomes the perpetrator. And crucially, it's all sustained by denying the violence ever even happened, which just creates this massive split in reality itself. The Argentinian writer Julio Cortázar just perfectly captures how uniquely insidious this kind of terror is. See, the perpetrators aren't some foreign enemy. They share your culture, your language, your history. And that familiarity creates this psychological abyss, a betrayal so profound it literally defies language. To really understand this abyss, we have to look at one of state terror's most diabolical tools: enforced disappearance. This was a hallmark of the military dictatorship in Argentina, and it has a truly devastating psychological architecture. The difference here is absolutely critical. In a normal, acknowledged death, there's a body that allows for rituals, for burial, which in turn creates a path toward mourning. Enforced disappearance systematically rips this process apart. With no body, mourning is impossible. It's frozen, and life itself becomes suspended in this unbearable state of not knowing. And listen to this. This chilling quote from the dictator himself reveals the explicit, terrifying goal. Disappeared was meant to be a new category of being, a limbo designed to paralyze not just one person, but entire families, whole communities, trapping them in this hellish cycle of hope and despair. So for the children of the disappeared, life itself just can't move forward. They are psychically tethered to this unresolved absence. Time just stops, because moving on would feel like accepting a loss that has never even been officially acknowledged. Okay, so this state of suspension, it points to a really profound psychological rupture. To get why this trauma is so uniquely damaging, we need to explore how our psyche even processes reality, and how an event like this can shatter its fundamental functions, lodging the pain not in our memory, but in the body itself. A foundational concept we need here is from Jungian psychology, and it's called the ego-self axis. Think of it like a vital communication channel between our conscious identity, our ego, and the deep, organizing core of our whole psyche, the self. The health of this connection is the absolute bedrock of a stable identity. This connection relies on two key psychic processes. First up is the translational function. This is the mind's ability to take raw sensory data, that pit in your stomach, that sudden jolt of fear, and translate it into a form you can actually understand, like an image, and eventually a word. The second is the transcendent function. Now, this is a bit more sophisticated. It's our amazing capacity to hold two conflicting things at once, like feeling both intense love and intense anger toward a parent, and to integrate them into a more complex, mature understanding of the world. So here's how it all falls apart. A catastrophic trauma, like a parent just vanishing, completely overwhelms the psyche's ability to process it. The primary defense is dissociation. It's like flipping a circuit breaker to protect the core self. But that act of survival shatters both the translational and transcendent functions. The trauma never gets turned into a story or memory. Instead, it gets stored raw and unmediated in the body. And this understanding fundamentally changes the whole approach to healing. I mean, if the wound is stored beyond words, then therapy has to begin beyond words. And this brings us back to the girl from our introduction. We'll call her Vera, and now we're going to follow her story of recovery. The key is a technique called Embodied Active Imagination. It's a really profound process where, in the safe presence of an analyst, the patient just turns their attention inward and allows the body to speak. They wait for an impulse and just let it express itself through movement, through a gesture, or even through stillness. What's so brilliant about this is that it methodically rebuilds that broken translational function. It actually follows our natural developmental path, from a raw bodily sensation to a physical movement to an external image like a drawing, and only then, at the very end, to the spoken word. It's literally building a bridge back to meaning. In Vera's case, a simple sensation, the feeling of wind, triggered an uncontrollable trembling. This is so significant. The ancient Greek word for terror, tromos, literally means trembling. Without any words, her body was physically enacting the unspeakable fear that had been locked away for decades. After this really powerful somatic experience, she was able to translate it into an image. Vera drew a place for a symbolic burial, creating for the very first time the ritual that state terror had stolen from her, the exact ritual needed for mourning to even begin. And there, in the safety of the therapeutic relationship, Vera could finally name the fear, connect it to her mother, and utter these absolutely paradoxical words of healing. Because I love you, I bury you. This was the symbolic act of mourning that could finally begin to thaw her suspended life. And this incredible journey of healing brings us back, full circle, to where we began, the simple yet incredibly profound act of a signature. Decades after that traumatic event, Vera has a dream where she writes a new signature. And the contrast to her childhood act is just profound. The first was an act of forbidden memory that brought punishment. This new one is an act of conscious integration, of claiming her entire history. But the most significant detail is that final part of her new signature, out de self. In Spanish, out conveys belonging. Vera is no longer defined just as the daughter of disappeared parents, suspended in their absence. She now belongs to herself. This dream signature is a powerful symbol of psychic restoration. It represents the successful repair of that vital ego self-access. Her conscious identity is finally reconnected to its deepest core. Her stolen identity has finally been recovered. This profound clinical work with Vera really suggests that for our deepest, pre-verbal wounds, those held not in narrative memory, but in the body, healing has to begin not with what we can say, but with what the body has never been allowed to forget.